In this lesson, we'll work on building out the windshield for our aircraft. Okay, so picking up right where we left off in our previous lesson, we're going to start to build out this main windshield element. So let's go ahead and just start by building out some of this main decorative piece that we have here. So I'm going to go ahead and just press the I key on my keyboard and just Alt middle click to grab that entire edge loop all the way around here. Again, if we were to switch back to our wireframe, you should see exactly the elements that I have selected. So now, let's go ahead and just start to build this out. So what I might do is take this and maybe try to pull this forward just to where it is just barely kissing up against this lip for the main cockpit. With these edges selected, I'll press Ctrl D to duplicate and pull that forward. Okay, so that way it's just now on the other side of this lip. Once again, Ctrl D to duplicate and pull this forward. Now that we start to get this outside of here, I'm going to switch to my scale tool and just sort of scale that out a little bit. So just finding just kind of that right balance here. Maybe pull that down a little bit more. Again, maybe switch to my move tool. Again, this is just the V, X, and C key on my keyboards that I'm using to switch between my scale and move and translate tools. Now let's go ahead and press the T key on my keyboard. I'll tag these points and maybe just pull these up a little bit more. Kind of widen these out a little bit. Again, just press the X key on my keyboard. In this case, you'll notice my scale tool jumps all the way back down to the origin. So that's okay. We can just turn on this COG option for center of geometry, and that should help us out. So I might just come in here and scale that up, make that just a little bit wider. There we are. So something like that should work just fine. Now, looking at this, we can see that we do have this kind of an edge that is coming out here, but you'll see that the curvature here is very, very rounded out. So what we'd probably want to do is come in here and give this a little bit more of a sharp corner right in there. So what we should be able to do is switch back to our split edge tool. And let's come in, I'll middle click, kind of right down right along here. So that way that actually adds a new split that runs all the way down along this length. And that should actually start to help us sharpen up some of these edges right along here as well, because again, it's added a new edge right along there. So you can definitely see where this side looks nice and sharp and crisp compared to this other side, which looks kind of soft and a little bit more organic than what we might want. So once again, middle click, and let's add another split right in there. And you can see that that actually does a really, really good job of sharpening that up. Actually does such a good job that you can see that we actually have parts of this geometry that are poking out now. So might need to come in and again just tag those points, switch back to my scale tool, maybe now just scale those in a little bit more. There we are, much, much better. So now I'm going to switch back to my edge loop selection. Again, Alt middle click. That way I can make sure that it actually makes selection around some of these new edges that I just added in here. We want to make sure we get those. Now with all of these edges selected, again, Control D to duplicate these edges. Switch to my scale tool. Alright, we might just round these, scale these down. Once again, Control D to duplicate, and just scale those in. Let's see, actually looks like we have something that is a little bit awkward that's happening right in here. So let me come in here and just undo a few times. There we are. Let's see if we can't find out what's actually happening there. So maybe to make this just a little bit easier, I can come in here and switch to this little camera icon. Let's isolate selection. Come in here and make sure that we don't see anything that looks maybe off. So actually what seems like may have happened, if I press the minus key on my keyboard, you can see that I actually had some of these edges here selected as well. So when I did my duplication, it actually grabbed those edges there. So let's come in and make sure that we once again do our loop selection. There we are. So that should now work much better. Again, Control D to duplicate. Press the plus key on my keyboard a couple of times. There we go. This looks like it's going to work much better. So I'll just duplicate that in a couple of times. So that way we get a little bit more of a lip here. All right, and now we'll actually build out the window piece. So once again, Control D to duplicate. We can pull this out. I'll pull this to pretty close to halfway across where this cockpit is going to be, so we can see from one end to the other. I'm pulling this to about the halfway point, maybe just a little bit shy of the halfway point. And now I can just switch to my scale tool. I'll scale that out a bit and start to make some actual adjustments to this. So I'm going to do something very similar to what we did with this piece in our previous lesson. So I'll actually take this windshield here and make this something completely separate. So I'll come in here and switch to my polygon selection. So press the U key on my keyboard, Alt middle click to grab that entire loop of polygons here. With that, let's go to Create Polymesh, Extract Polygons, and we'll use the Delete option. So now I actually have this piece of windshield geometry that is completely separate from this main decorative piece up here. And now that should give me the freedom to come in here and start making some modifications. So really I don't need things like these polygons underneath here. So what I should be able to do is come in and just quickly grab those, press delete to clear those off. Alright, and I'll come in here and tag some of these points as well. Maybe scale these up a little bit more and bring those up here. There we are. So just kind of looking at where we're at, might just tag these points here as well. Bring these down. What I'm trying to do is just get something that fits pretty well into this area. Now it doesn't have to be precise, so just as long as it fits pretty closely. So I'll pull that down a little bit more. Just really kind of looking for these edges to fit in here a little bit better. Now looking at this, you can see that we do have this relatively straight piece, but really it's again very, very straight. It actually doesn't fit very well in here. You can see we have a pretty sizable gap. So let's actually come in and switch to our split edge tool once again, and let's middle click to add a split in here. And now what this should allow me to do is just tag some of these points probably right along in here, and with those selected we can start to scale those out and get this set up in a way to where it should start to fit now much better. And if we need to, we could even maybe pull some of those forward. I'll maybe even tag some of these points and pull these forward as well. There we are, so that way that sort of rounds out this whole little piece here. Now another thing that I might do is go ahead and add another split kind of right along this middle piece here, so that way we can actually start to shape this. So again, if I press the minus key on my keyboard, you can see that we have these really long straight edges and straight polygons. So let's come in, again switch to my split edge tool, middle click right over here, and middle click right over here across from it. And now that should give us the ability to start grabbing, again, some of these points. And now if we need to, we could scale those out to just sort of round this shape out a little bit more. There we are, very nice. Now looking at this from a shaded view, another thing that we could do is actually start to tag some of these points here, maybe pull some of these back a little bit further. Let me tag some of these and pull these in a little bit more to add just a little bit more curvature into this windshield. There we are. And now just to finish this off, I might add a little bit more of a lip just right in here. So once again, switch back to my split edge tool. I'll add a split right in there, so that way we have this nice long row of polygons right in here. Again, if I press the minus key on my keyboard, that might be a little bit easier for you to see. So now we'll just Alt middle click to grab those polygons, Control D to duplicate, switch to my scale tool, or rather my move tool. Again, we'll switch this to local mode, turn off COG, and make sure that my transform components independently in local mode is turned on. With all of those things done, now I should be able to take these duplicated polygons and pull these straight out along their normals. And just add a little bit more thickness to that window, just right in that lip. So now if I press the plus key on my keyboard a couple of times, we can see now where we get a little bit more of this lip in here. Now you can see where it starts to kind of lose a lot of its definition right along here, so just like what we've had to do in the past, we may need to use our split edge tool. And again, just add a split right in here just to force that to hold its shape a little bit better. So now when I smooth that out, we can see that has now a lot more definition. Okay, so a couple of last minute things that we need to wrap up before we finish up this lesson. So along this decorative piece right up here, let's come in and grab these polygons. So again, just a loop selection, Alt middle click, Control D to duplicate, press the X key on my keyboard to switch to my scale tool. Might need to turn on my COG option for this. And now we'll come in and just scale this in a little bit, just to kind of create a little bit more of a lip right there. Now, just like what we experienced with our window, if we press the plus key on our keyboard a couple of times, you'll see that we wind up with this really, really soft shape here. So, just like what we had to do previously, let's switch to our split edge tool. Middle click to add a split right here. Middle click right up here. We'll middle click right here and right here as well. And now you can see that we get this really, really nice sharp shape as opposed to this really, really soft kind of organic shape that we would have had before. Alright, so this gives you really kind of an idea of just how we can start to tackle a lot of our modeling problems, where we can start with these very, very basic shapes and actually start to build upon and extract shapes out of existing forms to really build just whatever we might need. So in our next lesson, we're going to continue the process of building out some of these additional pieces for this aircraft.